Chapter 31. Luca's eyes widened, not understanding why Earl had said that. It was Earl who had been playing, not Luca. However, Earl didn't seem to have any intention of revealing the secret. Instead, he gave all the credit to Luca. Luca sighed in relief. Since Earl didn't plan to expose the truth, there was no need for him to dwell on it. So, Luca smiled and didn't say anything further. To the girls watching, Luca's silence was an acknowledgement of his performance. They thought his composed demeanor made him appear even more mysterious and charming. He was so handsome, charming, and refined. The girls' admiration for Luca grew. Isaac introduced Earl to the girls, highlighting that he was the top scholar in the state. For these proud and talented music students, that credential was no stranger to them. Upon hearing his title, the girls gawked in surprise. Although Alnugo University was full of talented individuals, being a top scholar was still impressive. However, their astonishment was only temporary. To them, past achievements belonged to the past. They only cared if Earl accomplished anything noteworthy in college, such as making a big impression at the welcome party or having a legendary moment during training. They also wondered if he held a leadership position in class or participated in clubs. Yet, Earl didn't seem to have any accomplishments in those areas. In short, he was just an ordinary student. The one thing that stood out was the fact that Belle was pursuing him. A girl exclaimed, "So, you're Belle's crush." This caused a stir among the girls. They might not have been familiar with Earl, but they had heard the story of Belle pursuing a boy. Especially during training, when Belle had bought Earl drinks, only to be rejected. That incident had become a popular topic of gossip. The girl was close to Belle and knew more about the situation. She even knew that Earl had been wearing a knockoff Adidas tracksuit when he and Belle had first met. The story had become a running joke in their circle. After hearing these rumors, some of the girls who were initially interested in Earl couldn't help but lose some of their enthusiasm. Seeing this, Joshua took the opportunity to introduce the 6 girls that they were with. The girls lived in a dorm across from theirs in a building shared by music and finance students. It was a dormitory well known for its beautiful women. Every day, luxury cars would line up outside, and all sorts of love stories unfolded there. Jessica was the leader of dorm 610, and Anya, Belle's friend, was particularly charming. The other 4 girls were Miranda, Queenie, Anna, and Jenna. All of them were stunning, but Anna stood out the most to Earl. She had light makeup on and a delicate appearance. She exuded an elegance that contrasted with the outgoing personalities of the other music students. She was like a breath of fresh air, quietly listening to the conversations and occasionally offering a smile. As it was the first gathering between the 2 dorms, the atmosphere was lively and harmonious. Chapter 32. Joshua was witty and charming, making the girls laugh. Luca's occasional remarks would also spark reactions from the girls. Meanwhile, Isaac and Ronnie played supporting roles, ensuring that the conversations remained friendly and enjoyable. Samuel, on the other hand, was in charge of serving drinks. Earl climbed onto his bed with his laptop, fully engrossed in perfecting a game plugin. He intended to send the final version to Patrick's work team. He was so focused that he only occasionally joined the conversation. As dinner time approached, Joshua suggested going out to celebrate that evening. Despite Earl and Samuel not being close to Joshua, they joined since it was a group activity. The group headed to a music-themed restaurant. Joshua had a high alcohol tolerance and ordered many drinks. Under the influence of alcohol, the conversation became livelier, and the topics spanned out. Joshua even started teasing Samuel, his jokes crossing the line into disrespect. Although Samuel's face fell, he endured it silently. Ronnie planned to mock Earl but held back when he saw Earl's composed demeanor and Luca's unusually warm attitude toward him. This stirred a sense of unease in Ronnie, and the taunts died on his lips. During dinner, Joshua and Miranda exchanged flirtatious glances. Meanwhile, Isaac and Queenie hugged and leaned on each other intimately. Night fell, and the gathering continued until late. Finally, the girls reminded the group that the dormitory doors would be locked if they didn't head back. Only then did Joshua reluctantly lead everyone out. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the curtains into the dorm room. Earl was still asleep when a ringtone jolted him awake. He answered the call in a daze. Patrick's anxious voice came through. "Earl, did you hear? Bloody Dawn is officially live. You need to log in and check it out." "I'm still half asleep. What's the rush?" Earl yawned. "We're all playing it already. It's insanely popular. Get online and experience it for yourself," Patrick exclaimed. Although Earl wasn't into gaming, he knew a game's popularity often hinted at massive business potential. A blockbuster title like Bloody Dawn, which had exploded in popularity right at launch, presented endless opportunities. After getting up, he prepared to visit Patrick's studio to check out the situation. Isaac also rolled out of bed. "Earl, let's hit the basketball court after lunch. The basketball tournament is coming. And you need to join in." Earl nodded before heading to Patrick's studio. When he arrived, he saw every computer turned on, with the staff absorbed in playing Bloody Dawn. Patrick beamed when he saw Earl. "Earl, you're finally here. Check out this game. It's off the charts in popularity." Earl walked around the studio and discussed the progress of the plugin development with Patrick. After receiving a positive update, he commended the team and reminded Patrick to continue working on the plugin. Earl understood that as long as the game developers didn't make any major missteps, the game's success was guaranteed. And being the first to develop a plugin could bring in major profit. Chapter 33. At noon, Earl returned to school for lunch. Afterward, he took a nap and woke up to find only Samuel in the dorm room. Joshua and Queenie had started interacting last night, while Isaac and Miranda seemed to get along well. Even Ronnie, who was usually reserved, was actively pursuing Anya. Samuel couldn't resist the pull of romance and had begun making moves on Jenna. Luca was an exception and appeared uninterested in relationships. Rumor had it that Jessica, the dorm head of the girls' dormitory, was trying to win him over, but he remained unmoved. Luca was focused on music. Fueled by his dream, he poured all his energy into his practices. Earl spent time discussing song modifications and lyric refinement with Luca. He was more than willing to help Luca perfect his work. After all, someone this passionate about music deserved all the support and encouragement they could get. By evening, Earl and Isaac went to the cafeteria for dinner. After eating, they headed to the basketball court for a game. Isaac was excited about the upcoming basketball tournament, hoping to catch the attention of Zion, the national team's coach, and fulfill his dream of becoming a professional basketball player. The court was bustling. Earl and Isaac joined a group and started a match. Before long, the other players started leaving. It was impossible to play. Isaac was built like a tank, while Earl's dribbling and shooting were top-notch. What was even scarier was Earl's strength. The opposing teams couldn't match their level. Who would stick around for this beating? It was better to leave than waste time. As night fell, only Isaac remained on the court, driven by his ambition to join the school basketball team. He dragged Earl along for more training and they were soon drenched in sweat. Just then, the court lights turned on, and a figure stood quietly as if waiting for someone. Though it was dusk and they couldn't make out her face, her elegance stood out, and the evening breeze only added to her charm. She looked like she had been sent by the heavens. Her arrival caused a stir among the players. The once relaxed athletes immediately perked up. Earl's court was farther from the girl, so he could only vaguely make out her silhouette. However, Isaac charged forward, snapping Earl's attention back to the game. Earl quickly refocused, engaging Isaac in an intense one-on-one. Meanwhile, Bianca quietly stood by the basketball court, gently brushing her hair as she watched the boys. She was waiting for her roommate to discuss some issues. While waiting, she unintentionally drifted closer to the court, her eyes drawn to the boys playing. A smile tugged at her lips, and memories of a young boy chasing a basketball on her hometown's court surfaced in her mind. She couldn't help but think about the boy who had leapt into a river to save her, and that moment they locked eyes under the moonlight. His gaze left a mark on her heart. After arriving in Alnugo, she tried to contact him but discovered his phone number had been deactivated. This realization saddened her. Though she hadn't interacted much with Earl since coming to college, their 6 years as classmates showed that he was a proud and ambitious boy. He had grand dreams but suffered under the exam-oriented education system. Perhaps he felt ashamed of failing the college entrance exam and had chosen to sever ties with her because of it. The more she thought about it, the more her melancholy grew. Yet, he was still her hero. Chapter 34. Bianca would always remember Earl, whether it was the songs they had sung together or the earnest look in his eyes as he had played the guitar by the river. Bianca was suddenly drawn to one of the boys playing basketball. He was tall, with a strong and muscular build. Under the court lights, he looked to be the definition of strength and youthfulness. At that moment, the intense one-on-one match between Earl and Isaac had reached its climax. Despite Isaac's defense, Earl charged forward and broke through. As he neared the basket, Earl suddenly leapt into the air, with Isaac jumping up right behind him in an attempt to block. However, Earl ended the play with a powerful slam dunk. The sight left everyone on the court in awe. People stopped what they were doing to watch, and the court erupted with applause and cheers. It was rare to see such a spectacular dunk in a college basketball game. Isaac, on the other hand, stood frozen in place, his face blank as if he hadn't yet recovered from the shock. The match stirred something within Bianca. That stunning dunk was, without a doubt, the most breathtaking play she had ever witnessed. As she gazed at the dazzling figure dominating the court, a sense of familiarity crept over her. It was as though this figure had always been present in her life. Earl seemed to sense an intense gaze directed his way. He dismissed the dejected Isaac and turned to look. Under the court lights, he saw a beautiful figure standing there, her eyes fixed on him. Her elegant posture, unparalleled grace, and the way she swayed gently with the breeze left an impression on Earl. "Bianca, we should go." A voice broke the brief moment of stillness. A girl with a ponytail walked over. Although she was not as beautiful as Bianca, she was still pretty. She linked arms with Bianca and got ready to leave. When Bianca spotted Earl, she trembled and stared in disbelief. But just as she was about to speak, the girl beside her pulled her toward a cafe. When Bianca looked back again, the shops had already blocked her view of the basketball court. "Bianca, what are you looking at? Why do you look so dazed? Don't tell me you fell for someone." The girl, Shirley Tara, was one of Bianca's closest friends. Today, Shirley had decided to pursue a boy she admired and was dragging Bianca along for advice and support. Bianca blushed at Shirley's teasing. She shook her head. "It's nothing, let's just talk about your plans instead." Though Bianca wore a smile, her mind replayed the moment she locked eyes with Earl on the basketball court. Despite the dim lighting, Earl's familiar silhouette and features stood out vividly. Her instincts told her it was Earl. The thought made her want to run out and confirm it immediately. But reason quickly overruled her emotions. It was impossible. She had to be mistaken. How could Earl be on the basketball court at Alnugo University? Chapter 35. Although Bianca never denied that Earl was a clever person, she believed there was no way he could be here. Sure, miracles happened, but considering the billions of people in the world, the probability of a miracle was almost non-existent. Based on Earl's academic performance, it seemed impossible for him to gain admission to one of the nation's top 5 universities no matter how hard he worked. The thought was too absurd. While Bianca sat in the cafe, lost in thought, Earl returned to his dormitory with Isaac after regaining his composure. Isaac couldn't stop talking, eagerly asking Earl for tips on how to execute a dunk like the one he had just performed. He wanted to know how to end the game with the same flair and confidence. Standing at 6 feet 3, Isaac could dunk, but he couldn't pull off the kind of awe-inspiring dunk that Earl had just achieved. If he could execute a dunk like that, surrounded by cheering girls, it would be the epitome of cool. While responding to Isaac's questions, Earl's mind kept returning to the beautiful face he had seen under the court lights. The person was so beautiful and gentle. He was certain it was Bianca. But Earl held back his excitement and didn't approach her. After all, Bianca was admired by everyone. Every day, countless men surrounded her, fighting for her attention. If Earl wanted to leave a lasting impression on her, he needed to do something unforgettable. Today wasn't the right time. No matter how much he wanted to approach her, he forced himself to wait for the perfect moment that would make Bianca see him in a whole new light. As time passed, the weather grew colder, and the leaves on campus trees began to fall. It was now late autumn. Lately, Samuel had been looking downcast. Rumor had it that Jenna, the girl he had been flirting with, had started seeing a rich heir from outside the school. This left Samuel dejected. To numb himself, he spent his days binge-watching adult films and drinking. One day, Samuel pulled Earl aside and suggested they pool their money to buy an inflatable doll. Earl was horrified and flatly rejected the idea. Meanwhile, Bloody Dawn, the game Earl had invested in, was booming in popularity. Its success brought profits to the team, and within just a month, Earl earned nearly $200,000 from his share of the profits. For Earl, this was an enormous sum at this stage of his life. Even though he was prepared for it, seeing the money in his bank account still filled him with excitement. When the monthly earnings were transferred to Patrick's team, Patrick and his crew were equally thrilled. In all their years of creating game cheats, this was their highest payday yet. This massive success boosted their confidence and deepened their trust in Earl. While Earl and Patrick were basking in the success, the much-anticipated youth vocal showcase arrived as scheduled. The preliminary rounds lasted only a month, but with Earl and several renowned artists supporting him, Luca became the star with his original song and soon gained popularity. Luca quickly established himself as a rising star, attracting attention from professional artists. His music career seemed destined for greatness. Meanwhile, on the internet, the singer, Soul, was also making waves. His song, Heart's Desire, was at the height of its popularity, and his older hit, Time, also experienced a resurgence. Together, the two songs dominated the charts, something that had never been seen before. This wave of success also brought Earl a lot of income. The massive number of downloads for the online songs earned him a fortune in a short time, pushing his savings to nearly $500,000. However, Earl also felt a growing sense of urgency. He knew that to maintain his edge, he needed to keep improving. Chapter 36. At the same time, Earl's online career was thriving. A fan club for Soul quietly emerged on the internet, with its registered members quickly surpassing 100,000 users. These fans were active on various social platforms, constantly calling for new releases from their idol. Every move Soul made tugged at the hearts of countless fans, and he even became a regular headliner. Numerous entertainment companies extended offers to the mysterious person called Soul, hoping that he would join them. However, Earl declined all their invitations. He didn't want to step into the spotlight too soon. He had bigger dreams and ambitions to pursue. One sunny weekend afternoon, Earl lay on his bed, relishing a rare moment of peace in the dormitory. While his roommates were each busy with their own lives, Earl alone enjoyed this tranquil moment. Suddenly, Luca walked in with a sheet of music in hand, seeking Earl's advice. Luca hoped that Earl's guidance would help him excel in the upcoming ranking competition. This competition was incredibly significant for Luca, as it would be broadcast live on television. While practicing his new song, Luca had encountered some challenges. Though he had already mastered tonal transitions, he wanted to elevate his performance even further, so he came to Earl for help. Taking the guitar from Luca, Earl made a few adjustments before demonstrating the tricky parts that Luca was struggling with. The results were immediate. The sections that seemed difficult for Luca flowed effortlessly in Earl's hands. Luca couldn't help but ask Earl to play the entire song, hoping to identify his weaknesses and learn how to improve. Listening to Earl play wasn't just a learning experience for Luca, it was an absolute pleasure. Sometimes, it even sparked creative inspiration for his compositions. As Earl played, the dormitory door, which hadn't been fully shut, was blown open by the breeze. Suddenly, Belle appeared at the doorway. It had been a month since she had contacted Earl. Today, she couldn't hold back anymore and came to see him. Belle had invited Earl to hang out, but he had brushed her off, leaving her upset and frustrated. Now, she was determined to confront him and find out why he was so cold toward her. However, as she approached the dormitory, the sound of the guitar from inside caught her attention. The music was elegant and captivating. At first, Belle assumed that it was Luca playing. She was well aware of his musical talents and thought that he must have improved once again. But when she pushed the door open, she was stunned to see that the person playing was actually Earl, while Luca sat beside him. In that moment, Belle's resentment melted away, replaced by a newfound appreciation for Earl. Earl was incredibly talented. Chapter 37. Earl was immersed in the guitar melody, his eyes closed as his fingers danced across the strings. A light breeze lifted the hem of his shirt, and his natural elegance exuded a captivating allure. As the song ended, Earl set the guitar down and finally noticed Belle standing in the dormitory, her eyes wide with astonishment. He was momentarily taken aback but quickly regained his composure. Luca was equally surprised, but he picked up his guitar and said to Earl, "Thanks for the performance. I'm going to reflect on it." Inspired by Earl's playing, Luca felt as though he had uncovered new creative ideas. He needed time to process them. Belle snapped back to reality. After Luca left, she tried her best to calm down. She walked over to the window, feigning nonchalance. "Are you learning guitar from Luca?" Earl shrugged. "Did you need something?" He didn't care what Belle thought of him. If she assumed he was learning, so be it. It didn't matter. His indifference made Belle seethe. She wasn't naive. From the way Earl played, it was obvious he wasn't Luca's student. Luca's earlier words had also revealed that he was seeking guidance from Earl, not the other way around. As shocking as this was, it had unfolded right before her eyes. The only reason Belle had suggested Earl was learning from Luca was to provoke him. But Earl couldn't even be bothered to explain himself, leaving her feeling defeated. Belle scrutinized Earl carefully. His deep eyes and calm demeanor suddenly made her realize that she might have been wrong all along. Though Earl wore inexpensive clothes, it was clear he carried himself with pride. He was talented and capable. Otherwise, he wouldn't have entered Alnugo University as the top scorer. Someone like him could never be easily toyed with. Belle finally understood that she had never truly known Earl, just as she had never genuinely appreciated his guitar playing. Yet, her pride wouldn't allow her to back down. Her eyes sparkled as she asked, "Were you planning to ignore me if I hadn't come?" Earl couldn't be bothered with her theatrics. Seeing his indifference, Belle stomped her foot in frustration. "Earl, is there nothing about me that interests you even a little?" This time, Earl finally turned to look at her. "You're definitely beautiful, but we were a mistake from the beginning. What's the point of continuing this?" Belle froze. After taking a deep breath, she mustered the courage to ask, "Then, what should I do to prove to you that I'm sincere?" Earl took a long look at Belle. Today, she had put on her best dress, and she looked more beautiful than ever. He couldn't help but swallow nervously. When it came to beauty, perhaps only Bianca could rival her. Chapter 38. Earl smiled. "Well, that depends on your actions." Belle froze, her brows furrowing as she pondered what exactly Earl meant. In truth, Earl hadn't really thought about what he wanted from her. It was just something he had said offhandedly, hoping to make Belle back off. However, Belle made a bold move that left Earl stunned. Earl was engrossed in his computer work, and he was ignoring Belle. Suddenly, a pleasant fragrance wafted toward him. Earl turned his head. To his astonishment, Belle was right in front of him. Her skin glowed under the light, and Earl could even see the lines on her face. It was the first time they had been this close, and Earl's heart began to race. Belle's scent surrounded Earl. He blushed and asked breathlessly, "What are you trying to do?" Belle had been nervous. After all, approaching a guy like this took courage, even for her. But seeing Earl look even more flustered than she was, she couldn't help but feel surprised. Had this guy never been this close to a girl before? Belle relaxed and smiled mischievously. "Didn't you say you wanted me to do something? Well, here I am. Why are you backing away?" I'm not backing away." Earl tried to appear calm. "Good." Belle smiled sweetly. Before Earl could react, she suddenly leaned in and kissed him. The kiss was short but captivating. In that instant, Earl's mind went blank. His eyes flew open, and he forgot how to respond. Belle's breathing quickened as well. She had only intended to give Earl a small kiss to show her sincerity. But to her surprise, he seemed like a magnet, pulling her closer and making her heartbeat race. Caught between her shyness and the moment, Belle couldn't help but notice Earl's charm. His gaze seemed to draw her in further. Belle suddenly realized that she didn't want to pull away. Besides, his scent was incredibly pleasant. However, she couldn't help but notice something else. Earl seemed inexperienced when it came to this. He didn't react to her at all, which left her disappointed. What a dense man. He didn't even respond to the kiss. Finally, Belle let go of Earl. She pouted and pounded his chest in mock frustration. You're such a meathead. Can't you at least respond? Do I really have to be the one making the first move? Do you know how embarrassing that is for me? Earl finally snapped out of it, his face burning with embarrassment as he mumbled, I've never experienced anything like this before. Was that your first kiss? Belle asked in surprise. Annoyed by her question, Earl retorted, what do you think? Do you think everyone's as experienced as you are? Belle fumed at his response. Who said that? That's on you for not knowing anything at your age. Despite her irritation, Belle felt a sense of triumph. The thought that Earl's first kiss had been taken by her filled her with delight. Just then, she felt as if she had won over this stubborn guy. Earl didn't want to argue with her anymore, so he chose to stay silent. So, do you believe me now? Will you go out with me? Belle asked hopefully. Seeing Earl remain quiet, Belle pouted. I've already kissed you. What more do you need? Chapter 39. Earl nodded helplessly. Although the moment with Belle still lingered in his mind, he knew it was time to keep his promise. He trailed after Belle, his thoughts in turmoil. They left the campus and arrived on a bustling street. It was Earl's first time accompanying a girl as beautiful as Belle on a shopping trip. Belle seemed delighted, her waist-length hair and slender figure looking especially captivating in the glow of the setting sun. Earl trailed behind her, his gaze occasionally landing on her back. Suddenly, a group approached them. They were Belle's classmates and friends. They greeted her. Belle, what are you doing here? Why aren't you hanging out with us? One of the girls, Gigi Vogel, who was close to Belle, smiled as she walked up to her. However, another girl, Lunar Yaren, frowned at Earl and asked, Belle, why would you pick someone like him? Her tone was filled with disdain for Earl. Earl's expression darkened, and Belle's smile faded as the atmosphere grew tense. Another girl, Remy Brown, tried to ease the situation. Belle, why are you being so serious? Andres isn't perfect either. You might regret it later. Belle wasn't swayed by Remy's words. She blushed and glanced at Earl. Earl is my boyfriend, and I don't want to hear you talk about him like that again. It was clear that Belle was intent on defending Earl. She refused to let her friends belittle him. Remy's boyfriend, Gaston Smith, however, didn't take Earl seriously. Belle, Andres really likes you. Some of the guys on our basketball team would love to meet you too. How about I introduce a few of them to you? His words were an insult to Earl, treating him as if he were invisible. Remy chimed in, agreeing with her boyfriend. To Belle's friends, Earl seemed like an ordinary guy who had no business being with someone like Belle. They came from completely different worlds and had no future together. Faced with her friend's mockery, Belle's expression turned unpleasant. She suddenly gripped Earl's hand and declared, I appreciate your concern, but we have things to do. We'll be going now. Her friends had no choice but to leave reluctantly, leaving Belle and Earl alone. As soon as they were gone, Belle quickly let go of Earl's hand, a look of disappointment crossing her face. Despite her earlier display of affection, it was all just an act. She turned to Earl. I'm bored. Come with me to a bar for a drink. The bar was located on the street outside the campus and was buzzing with nightlife. Earl didn't enjoy the atmosphere there, but Belle seemed at home. She confidently ordered a few cocktails Earl had never heard of before and turned to him. Can you drink? Earl shook his head. Belle drank alone. As she sipped her drink, her emotions seemed to shift. Suddenly, she began to cry. Earl frowned. What's wrong? Belle sobbed. I feel awful. Why did Andres break up with me? What's wrong with me? For a moment, Earl didn't know how to respond. Chapter 40. Belle continued venting. I believe in fate. But after meeting you, I think the universe is playing a cruel joke on me. Andres is a playboy, and now I end up with a clueless idiot like you. Why is my life so miserable? Earl looked awkward and at a complete loss for words. Belle continued, and you. You're dumb, slow, unromantic, passive, always walking around in knockoff clothes, and you can't even drink. You're a complete hillbilly. Earl sighed but didn't argue back. After she finished complaining, Belle's tone shifted to self-pity. I even bragged about you in front of my friends, but now I don't dare to take you out. I'm afraid they'll laugh at me. Earl's expression darkened. Then, why did you pick me? Belle mumbled, what's the big deal? I got tired of those pretty boys. Can't I try something new? Like when someone's had gourmet food every day and occasionally wants some home cooking. Earl was speechless, and his annoyance began to build. Just as he was about to leave, Belle grabbed his hand and begged, all right. It's my fault. I was just joking, okay. Earl wanted to walk away, but Belle suddenly threw herself into his arms. Her perfume mixed with her natural scent filled the air around him. She said breathlessly, Hillbilly, will you take a walk with me? Earl stood frozen as he held Belle. This was the first time he had been so physically close to a girl. Feeling the warmth of her body and seeing her pretty face so near, his heart began to race. They left the bar and passed by an internet cafe. Belle suddenly grabbed Earl's hand. How about we stay up all night gaming? Come on. The cafe was bustling with people playing the latest games, Bloody Dawn and Skybound Wars. Belle turned to Earl and asked if he had played Bloody Dawn. When Earl shook his head, she gave him a disdainful look. I knew it. You're such a hillbilly. Belle wanted to find a private room for the two of them, but the cafe was unusually busy because they were hosting a tournament for Skybound Wars. Skybound Wars was the most popular game of the moment, and Belle had heard of it before. In the gaming community, skilled players who won global or national esports championships not only earned massive prizes but were also revered by countless fans. Although Belle liked the game, her skills weren't great and often lost matches. The game demanded speed, precision, and strategy, qualities Belle lacked. The cafe was filled with players. As Belle entered the game interface, a man with a buzz cut approached her and offered to team up. Belle rejected him. Get lost. The man was enraged. You bitch. Are you looking for trouble? He even tried to lay his hands on her. Belle was terrified. Earl stepped forward, a cigarette dangling from his lips, and calmly warned the man, leave. Earl's tall figure and muscles intimidated the man with the buzz cut. He eventually backed off. Belle's heart skipped a beat. So, Earl wasn't just a clueless blockhead after all. He had some heroic qualities too.